Chapter 8 A Pesky Pigeon. Alice looked thoughtfully at the mushroom for a moment, trying to make out its two sides. It was perfectly round, so Alice found this difficult to do. At last, she stretched her arms around the mushroom, as far as they could go, then broke off a bit of the edge with each hand. "Now which is which?" Alice whispered to herself. She nibbled a little on the right-hand piece to see what would happen. At once, she felt a violent blow underneath her chin, which had struck her foot. Alice was frightened by her sudden, dramatic shrinking, but knowing there was no time to be lost, she quickly chewed on some of the left-hand piece of the mushroom, hoping it would reverse the effect. It did, and Alice was relieved when she started growing, until she realized that her shoulders were nowhere to be seen. All Alice could see, as she looked down, was an extremely long neck that seemed to rise like a stalk out of a sea of green leaves far below. "What is all that green stuff?" said Alice, "and where have my shoulders gone? Oh, and my poor hands! Why can't I see you?" Alice was sure that she was moving them as she spoke, but no result seemed to follow, except a little shaking among the distant leaves. There seemed to be no chance of getting her hands to reach her head. So Alice tried moving her head down to her hands. She was delighted to find that her neck bent easily in almost any direction, just like a snake. So she started to dive down into the greenery, which she found to be the tops of the trees under which she had been wandering. Then a sharp hiss made her pull back and hurry. A large pigeon had flown into Alice's face and was hitting her hard with its wings. "Serpent!" screamed the pigeon. "Serpent!" "I'm not a serpent," Alice exclaimed. "Leave me alone." "Serpent, I say," repeated the pigeon. "There's no way of pleasing you." "I haven't the slightest idea what you're talking about," Alice replied. "I've tried the roots of the tree, and I've tried riverbanks, and I've tried hedges," the pigeon explained. "But those serpents, there's no pleasing them." Alice was more and more puzzled, but knew that there was no use in saying more until the pigeon had finished. "As if it wasn't trouble enough hatching the eggs," the pigeon continued. "I have to be on the lookout for serpents day and night. I haven't had a wink of sleep in 3 weeks." "I'm very sorry that you've been bothered," Alice said kindly. She now understood that the pigeon thought she was after the eggs. "Just as I thought I'd found the highest tree in the woods, far from any snakes," said the pigeon. "You swooped down from the sky." "But I'm not a serpent," Alice pleaded. I'm a... "Well?" the pigeon demanded. "What are you, then?" "I'm a girl," said Alice, rather doubtfully, as she thought of all the changes she had gone through today. The pigeon laughed. "A likely story, indeed! I've seen many little girls in my time, but never one with a neck like yours. No, you're a serpent, and there's no use denying it. I suppose you'll be telling me next that you've never eaten an egg." "I have eaten eggs, certainly," said Alice. "But little girls eat eggs just as serpents do." "I don't believe it," snapped the pigeon. "They do. Then they're a kind of serpent. That's all I can say." This was a new idea to Alice, so she was silent for a moment while she thought it over. Then the pigeon added, "You're looking for eggs, so what does it matter to me whether you're a little girl or a serpent?" "It matters a good deal to me," Alice replied. "I'm not looking for eggs. If I was, I wouldn't want yours. I don't like them raw." "Well, be off then," the pigeon said as she settled back down in its nest. Alice crouched down among the trees as best as she could. Her neck kept getting caught in the branches, and every now and then she had to stop to free it. When she finally found her hands, she realized that she was still clutching the 2 pieces of the mushroom, so she set to work very carefully, nibbling first at one and then at the other. With each bite, she grew a little taller, then a little shorter, until she was back to her normal height. It had been a while since she was her normal size, so it felt strange at first, but Alice got used to it after a few moments and began talking to herself as usual. "Half my plan already accomplished," she thought proudly. "I'm back to my regular size. The next thing is to find a way into the garden. How, I wonder?" As she said this, Alice came upon a tiny house that was no taller than her knee. "Whoever lives here," she thought, "would be awfully afraid of me at this height. I would frighten them out of their wits." So Alice nibbled more of the mushroom until she had brought herself down to 9 inches.